Here is my 2015 Outback with about 395,000 miles on it. Um, in April, I had a coolant light on, and long story short, I have an exhaust leak into the coolant. Um, from what I gather, probably from a cracked head, because I heard the coolant passage does not run through the head gasket on this model. So I was always thinking it was head gasket, but more likely cracked head. Either way, I use it for work and I needed a new car anyway pretty soon. I was hoping to hit 400 on this, obviously, but that's not going to happen. I could put a new engine in it pretty cheap, probably about 800 for an engine with 100K on it. But my goal for 400 was same engine, same trans. So if I put a new engine in it, that kills that, and I don't really care about hitting 400. So I picked up a 2025 Forester, which I'm happy with, and hopefully I can get 400 on that. But so I'm shooting this because I'm selling this. They should come pick it up tomorrow. So I just thought I'd do a quick walk around, just kind of showing the major parts of the car and kind of talking about what maintenance I had to do. If you have any other questions, leave them in the comments and I'll try to answer them. Overall, I spent less than 5,000 on maintenance over the life of this. So 10 years, about 5,000, a hair under. Um, that cost is including all maintenance other than engine oil. So engine oil, engine filters, and air filters. But every other thing, spark plugs, brake pads, tires are not included also, I'm sorry. So tires, engine oil, air filters are not in it. Everything else is. CVT oil, spark plugs, um, differential oil, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to walk around the outside first. Body's in pretty good condition. Um, no real rust on the paint anywhere. The biggest dent is right here, actually, which that happened when I backed into a truck about 2018. Aside from that, I was really impressed with the paint on this. I live in Minnesota, so lots of snow, lots of salt on the roads. So here's the engine. It was never really clean. I never really cared about keeping it too clean. It looks a little worse now because of the coolant overflowing, kind of caused all those marks and stuff. But no major things in the engine I ever had to do, obviously, up until the exhaust leak into the coolant. The battery I had to replace kind of early on, which then I think turned out to be a recall, but I was out of the window or something to get my cash back. Replace the PCV valve, obviously spark plugs, air filter, brake fluid, flushed the coolant out a few times. Never replaced the water pump until I replaced it at the end in April, thinking that maybe somehow that was the cause of the coolant issue, but it turned out to not be the cause. So it had the original pump on it for all those miles. Looking over my list here, the only other engine thing was I had the recall for the crack in the front exhaust, so that was free, obviously. replaced the serpentine belt twice, but that was just uh, preventative. Spark plugs, coolant flush, as I said. Yeah, that's about all for the engine. And on the interior here, got your usual wear and tear from all those miles. You can see here on the door, it's kind of shiny where I always put my arm. Same thing here. Same seat, same seats. Under here, the leather or whatever cracked, so I put that cover on there, but that just happened after 300K. If we sit down in here, show you the odometer, just to show I'm not lying. $393,909. Only other things on the inside is the light here, or all of them, I'm not sure, but that went out a while ago. Never really cared about replacing it. The radio works, but every couple months it'd kind of get possessed and switch radio stations. Touchscreen wouldn't work, or only certain buttons would work, but then just killing the engine and turning it on again would solve that. Yeah, headliner, it's a little hard to zoom in on my phone, but typical marks on the headliner. Didn't have a passenger that often, but I did have tools and other stuff in there. Trying to think, there's not really much on the inside. Everything worked. Show you the back seats here. And then the hatch, I did have to replace the springs, or the actuator, whatever you want to call him. I had to replace that somewhere in the 200s because it just wouldn't open up anymore. Here's the back. I always carried probably about maybe 200 pounds, 300 pounds worth of tools here. I was very impressed with the suspension on this too. I'm sure I could, use new suspension parts, just for a more smooth ride again, but I never had to replace shocks or anything. I know other co-workers with smaller cars with the same amount of tools, they were having to replace suspension parts like every couple years. So I'm very impressed with that as well with Subaru. Hatch and everything still works. License plate lights work. That's about all for the inside. So really that's about all. You got engine, inside, outside, suspension. Of course, I replaced, I always ran 2 sets of wheels, so I had my winter set and my summer set. It was actually cheaper that way because I could swap them out on my own, having a complete set of 2 rims, because if I just had tires, I'd have to pay a shop every time. So it actually worked out, and actually if you look up there, that's where they are still. I'll probably sell those separately because there's still a lot of tread on those winter tires. Just heading over my list here of things I had to do. The only kind of non-routine thing was I had wheel bearings go out pretty early. I think I replaced a total of 4. Two of them were still under warranty and two weren't. But then oddly, I haven't had any wheel bearing issues for over 200K now. So I think Subaru had a supplier issue. Um, of course, I had to do brake pads and rotors a couple times. I do a lot of highway driving, almost all highway driving. So those lasted me a long time. I did replace or change out the CVT oil a couple times. I actually have YouTube how-tos up on that. Probably do the same thing for my Forester as well, because there's no way that's a lifetime 400K oil. If you're gonna only keep your car 100K, yeah, you probably don't gotta change it out, but there's no way you're getting 400K out of that CVT oil. Yeah, so that's about it. Oh, I did have to replace the my passenger side at 202K. Passenger CV axle was making noise. I replaced the driver's side at the same time, just because the guy said they usually go out at the same time. So that was 650. Everything else, I believe I already talked about. So yeah, like I said, if you have any questions, leave it in the comments and I'll answer. I was really hoping to hit 400. I had emailed Subaru of America and asked if they could, work with me somehow and, cover the cost to maybe somehow repair the engine just to get me to 400. I thought it'd be, beneficial for them too to, say they, hey, look, our car goes 400K, but all I was offered was on my new Forester, they'd give me 2 years of free maintenance, which is just pretty much oil changes and tire rotations, which I do all my own work. So I didn't really need that. So yeah, this will be the last video for this. So any more videos will be in regards to my new 25 Forester. All right, thank you.